Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me open my iPad first. Well, thank you very much for the nice introduction, and also thank you for inviting me to this Sampoerna Supplier Conference. I think probably just to follow up on Ibu's request there, I think you better ask Sampoerna to move every time around so I can sell more tickets to you. Okay. Because Garuda, we fly everywhere in Indonesia. So I think anywhere you want to go, I think even now we also fly to Labuan Bajo, which is the Komodo Islands. So please fly Garuda. Okay. Well, I was asked to tell a story about the transformation of Garuda, and I hope that this will be something which might be useful for you. Maybe some might apply, but some maybe it's not applicable to your business. But nevertheless, probably this can shed some lights on whatever you want to do with the company. Well, first of all, I think sometimes I envy other industries compared to airline. Airline, I was the deputy CEO of a bank, of Bank Danamon, of which actually our working hours is probably until Friday afternoon, and later on Saturdays, Sundays, I tell my customers, please go to the ATM, but I'll still charge you interest, or I'll still pay you interest. But airline is a 24-hour business, even in the midnight, you might be called by your staff, your plane might be diverted, or there might be some technical problems, and then if one of your aircraft is having problem, you got about 300 passengers, you need to put them in a hotel and all these things. So, and on top of that, the margin is so thin. If you look at it, a margin of the total global airlines in the world is not more than 1%. Taking a taxi in New York, is more expensive than flying from Beijing to New York, if you calculate that. So in an airline business, each component is very, you have to really calculate. Luckily, I'm an accountant, so I kind of look at the numbers and try to get, because put it this way, last year we carried about together with Citilink, close to 25 million. If I can save $1 of cost from each passengers, that means I can hit my bottom line about $25 million. So these are the things that you really have to look at in the airline business. Maybe I'm sure in each businesses there's things that you have to look at. So at least if you look at this, it's a tough industry, but it must be generating cash flow. There's so much money coming in, but there's so much money going out. And the risk of the airline is the oil, price of the oil, exchange rate. So those are the things which is really impacting the airline business. But yet, you see so many people and so many rich people opening airlines. There's a joke, they say, if you want to be a millionaire in an airliner, start being a billionaire. Then you become a millionaire. So that's how airline is. Next. So this is what Garuda is. Garuda, we are a 4-star Skytrax. Our main business is still passenger. We have a maintenance repair shop, which is GMF, which is an FAA certified. We have catering business. We also have travel. We also have cargo business, and we carry Hajj every year. So in a span, every year there's about 200,000 Hajj that needs to be transported. So we carry them. Carrying the Hajj, bear in mind the people who's, right now if you apply for a Hajj, you might inshallah, in 12 years, you might be able to go to Mecca. And usually these are people from the middle, lower segment. So you really have to teach them to use the lavatory, where to sit, and all these things. So it's quite tough also carrying the Hajj. And most of our business is still from the regular tickets. Next. This is Garuda at a glance. So last year we carried about 25 million, and then with almost 350,000 tons of cargo. Our aircraft is 140, and with an average age about 5.6 years. I think Garuda now, we are one of the airline who has the youngest fleet on average, the age of the fleet. And then our total turnover is about 3.5 billion. If you look at about 6 years ago, we were not more than $1 billion, so we more tripled it. And then 16% on the compounded annual growth in the last 5 years, with a 19% EBITDA margin, and we travel to 43 destinations, domestic, and 19 international. Next. So when I started back in middle 2005, Garuda was in the brink of bankruptcy. If the negative equity, we had a cumulative loss about 5 trillion, and we were only profitable for 3 years at that time. So legally, we are actually bankrupt at that time. So that's where we started. But it's quite interesting when you come into a company and then you look at why is this company like this, you kind of try to find the historical, and the only way is get the financials. And if you look at it, you see that although even pre-deregulation and post-deregulation, the government did a deregulation on the airlines. In the past, Garuda is almost like a monopoly. You know, there was only 5 airlines in the past. It was Garuda, Merpati, Burak, Sampati, and Mandala. And at that time, it was only Garuda who had the privilege to fly a jet. Others are only allowed to fly turboprops. And I think in the last years also Sampati had, because Sampati was closely connected with the center of power at that time. But it was interesting, even though Garuda was so-called, quote-unquote, had a monopoly position, we were losing money. At that time, the number of the airlines of only 5, our market share was 32%, and we carried about 4.5 million with a market of 14 million. After deregulation, airlines grew about 15. We lost our market share to 24%. Market grew close to 30 million, and we carried only 7 million passengers. And we just had to change at that time, because in the past, it seems like people had the privilege in terms of, at that time, Garuda was not trying to find passengers. Actually, it was the passengers who was trying to get on Garuda at that time. So we were so-called not really customer-oriented. So after the post-deregulation, we just had to change our mindset, and then basically, because we have all these competitors, we had, at that time, we had Adam Air, Lion was also established, and you got all kind of airlines, and it was about 15 of them. Next. But at that time, Garuda also, we were not very so-called perceived positive by the media. The media was saying basically it's an average airline, you know, not concerned about safety, and then it's the bottom choice of people in terms of choosing the airline, which was set by Air Transport Intelligence. Business Time also said that basically service could have been better, hard to get the stewardess attention, last minute changes. And then also the Straits Times, it says, you know, has a terrible safety record. And also in London, it says also one of the world's worst safety record airlines. So this is what we were facing back in 2005, 2006. What was perceived by the public was only the tip of the iceberg, actually. Internally, problem was across the board. We divided into basically three major so-called groups. First, it's the human capital, which is the organization and the people itself. Second is the financial. Third is the operational. The people at that time, because we were a monopoly, we were really not structuring our organization to be market-oriented. There was no link between how the organization was structured and then how can we so-called reward our staff if they do a good job or punish them if they don't do a good job. So the organization was quite complicated at that time. And low trust, basically, that was what happening. People in the head office did not trust people who was in the branches. Somehow, they were always suspicious that the people in the in the branches was trying to play around with the money, selling. Bear in mind, the tickets of airlines move based on demand. Let's say if you want to go to Singapore, if you buy today or if you buy tomorrow, the price might be different. We have subclasses. So that is also, that what we need to do it is because of the supply and demand. I don't know how you sell your products, but us, we have to do it because if the plane flies empty, we don't have any inventory. It's a loss. Whereas if you have a product, if it's not, you cannot sell it today, you can sit on it and then probably tomorrow you can try to sell it again, but not in the airline business. It's all perishable in terms of if it flies, there it goes. So we really have to make what we call the revenue management system to really manage how to sell it, when to sell low fare, and then when to really go on a higher fare. So because of this, head office somehow in the past, they don't have the trust, they don't give the authority to the branches to basically manage those, what we call those subclasses, those pricing levels. And then also low productivity, so that's what happened. On the finance, of course, losses, negative equity, default on the bank loans, and then basically our equity was basically negative in terms of, so cash flow was negative, so that's the financial. On the operational, our on time was low, we were always late. Most of our routes are losing money. One thing at that time, the good thing about Garuda is we have a good system, which is the SAP. So I can identify which route is making money, which route is losing money. So at that time, more than 90% of our routes are losing money. So that's what happened. And then substandard product and services, too many types and aging aircraft. And of course, low cargo revenue. And at that time also Citylink, the position is not clear, whether it's a low cost or whether it supports, it is almost like Garuda. So what happened, Citylink was not stable and then it's not supporting us. So we were in a vicious circle at that time. Bad image, low yield, negative operation, negative cash flow, and then you get low quality. It just goes around and around. So we were facing by that, and then we just need so-called to cut that and really to restructure the company. We need to change. What happened was there was some kind of a dilemma sometime in the change. When you have to change, you don't have the money to do the changes. But when you have the money, you don't really push yourself to change. So in our part at that time, we don't have a lot of money at that time. So we need to change. We have to find out, how do we do this? How can we start changing? And how can we start increasing the morale of our employees that, yes, we can do it? First of all, we found out what we did is we have to be on time. On time doesn't cost you money. On time is just a matter of making sure that you deliver on time whatever you're supposed to do. So that is the first thing what we did. by changing that, really making sure that people deliver what they're supposed to do on time. And we gave them incentive at that time. People at the field, we give them 10% incentive every month. But the back office, we gave 5% incentive. In Garuda, we always believe in teamwork. There is no such thing as a Superman, super group, super profession. You know, every time when I go into a town hall meeting with our employees, I say there is no Superman in Garuda or a super group. It's all of us. So we have a saying of one team, one spirit, one goal. In terms of we really have to support, everybody has to support everybody. You might be good, you might be smart, but if the employee, they cannot work together with the others, we just ask them to leave. Because it does not work in terms of, we need to have like a soccer team in terms of everybody supporting everybody. Next. Well, we look at also during the crisis of Garuda, this is a Chinese saying, I don't know how they say it in Chinese. I don't want to try to say it because I might say it wrong. But the most important thing, in crisis, there's two components, danger and opportunity. So this is, even though we are in problem, we are in a crisis, we always tell our employees, but there's opportunities for us to be better. You know, Chinese proverb in this case, this is what we use in terms of reminding people, don't worry about the crisis. You know, if you face a crisis, there's always opportunities. Ideas come up. We look at things which are new things. So these are the things that we feel that is a good reference for us in terms of we are faced by crisis. So many positive things in Garuda at that time also. We have skillful staff. When I was appointed as a CEO, I did not bring anybody from outside of Garuda. So I chose the CFO. I looked around for the operation directors because I had the confidence that there must be good people in the company. But sometimes they are just not seen. They're just not given the opportunity to perform. So at that time, we found the staff was very skillful. What's more lacking is more managerial. So, but skill, they are very skillful. And then you see the brand is also strong, Garuda. At that time, we did so-called a survey. The top of mind of people when they say airline, it's Garuda. So we really have a strong brand. I'm sure Sampoerna the same thing. You know, people know about Sampoerna. And then we have also a rising domestic economy. Basically, passenger growth is a function of the growth of a GDP of a country. The rule of thumb is about 1.5 and 2 times. Let's say if your economy is growing about 6%, the rule of thumb, the passenger will grow about 1.5 to 2 times, which is about 9 to 12%. And it's been proven in Indonesia. The growth of the passenger has always been a double digit in the last 5 years. Although it went down, but still it's a double digit. And then we have commitment of the ministers also. When we were appointed, I asked for commitment from the minister. I said 3 things that I would like commitments. First, shareholder don't tell us where to fly in terms, because in the past, what happened is if there is a head of state visit coming to Indonesia and then suddenly we are asked to fly to that country. So I said no, we always look at from the commercial point of view. Second, we ask is don't tell us what aircraft to use or which engine to use. Because we said we're going to review whatever is the best for Garuda. Government put a board of commissioner as a supervisory. We'll be very transparent. We'll be very looking at all these things, and then we'll report to you which is the best aircraft to use in each of the routes. And third, at that time, the debt of Garuda was about close to $1 billion at that time. When I do a rough calculation, the sustainable debt should be about 500 million, 5 to 600 million with the size of the business at that time. So we requested 400 million cash injection of equity. Unfortunately, that I don't get. So, okay. But it's not bad, 2 out of 3. So we only got 100 million, which was only given in 2 tranches, 50 million and 50 million in 2 years. But government allowed us to list the company. So we raised capital. So that's how we raise additional capital, by listing the company. Next. So we launched a rigorous transformation program. First, we want to break the barrier of success, break the silo. In an airline business, everybody thinks they're so important compared to the other professions. Pilots thinks they're the most important. Engineer also. Cabin crew, same thing. Marketing, same thing. In Garuda, if you talk about unions, you have the pilot union, cabin crew union, you have the IT union, engineer unions, so many unions. So we have to break the silo. So that's why I said nobody's important except the team. And then no blaming. When we first started, before we start this program, we said to ourselves, I said, if we agree that whatever happened to Garuda is no one's fault, it's our own fault, then we can start talking. Then we can start basically trying to figure out what to do. But if we're always finger pointing to somebody else, we'll not find a solution. So when we start putting the core management and then try to do a strategic plan, that's one thing, the commitment I ask. Otherwise, it's no use. We spend days just doing things, but you always think that it's the fault of somebody else. So once we get that commitment, then we can do what we want to do. Build trust. This is what I said. Trust is very important in terms of in the company. If you don't trust your colleague, you don't trust your staff, you don't trust your boss, forget it. You will not improve the company's status. Communicate. This is very important in communicate, because when you are trying to change, actually in transformation, you're trying to bring your people to a certain stage, probably where they are not familiar of, where they're not used to be there. So you really have to communicate every time to your employees. And the communication has to trickle down. And you try to simplify your communication. At that time, we start with what we call a Power 8. 8 things that we need to do. So employees understand what they have to do. And I do every time checking what they want. Do they understand what we want to do? And I ask all the board of members, at least every month, meet your staff. Not your one level, but go deeper. Because usually what happens, you always get good report. You never know what really happens. For me, I'm lucky also. I like cycling. I cycle. So I cycle with my employees, our employees, and then they come from each so-called levels in the organization. And remember, in the sport, there's no strata. There's no such thing because I'm a CEO, I always have to be in front. No. So by doing that, you really get to know communication. And no comfort zone. You always try to make new things that our employees really understand. They're always busy doing some things. Don't make them comfort. So we did a conceptual, and then in systematic, in stages, and consistent. Next. Next, please. We reinstate our commitment, our vision. The vision that we think, we are a strong, distinguished airline. quality with quality services, and the most important, Indonesian hospitality. We are unique. What's our uniqueness? Our uniqueness is being Indonesia. Indonesia is known because of its hospitality, so we are proud of being Indonesia. Our objective, we are in the travel service business. In the past, we always think we are in the transportation business. I said, no, we are in the travel service business. What does that mean? You always have to be connected with your passengers, with your customers, although they have already reached their destinations. So this is what we see, that this connection, which I'm going to explain to you later on the stages. And then we want to be a dominant player in domestic and the flag carrier in international. And then the most important thing is we don't want to compete in pricing, because pricing is a never-ending game. You lower your price, your customer will lower. So if you sell services, you don't really want to compete in pricing. We did a survey at that time. What does customers see when they want? What do they find out when they want to pick an airline? Number one, of course, safety. It's a must. But number two is value for money. So the good thing about Indonesians, the customer is a little bit irrational compared to American, European. They don't mind to pay a little bit more if they get something more. In that survey, cheapest was number 7 in terms of what they see. And after that is the aircraft new, the meal, the cabin crew, are they young enough, So these are the things that we see. So we don't want to compete in pricing, but we want to compete in service and convenience. That's what we're doing in Garuda. Next. So this is the strategic plan, 2006 and 2010, what we did. So if you look at this, there is 3 stages. The dark blue, which is the first 2 years, which we call the survival stage. At that time, is very simple. If we survive, we are okay for those 2 years. So let's not be too fancy. We want to make money and all these things. We just say, just survive, First year, we say basically it's a consolidation year. We had to shrink our business. We had 50 aircraft, we returned 10 of them. Because bear in mind, as I mentioned to you, all of our routes are losing money. So we return it. Okay. And then second year, we say it's a rehabilitation year. It's just like someone who's after knocked out, basically you rehabilitate. And the theme at that time is basically deliver what you promise. So basically each employee do what you're supposed to do, nothing fancy. And on the next 2 years, we call it the turnaround stage. In the turnaround stage, first of all, is we improve our product and services. So we order new aircraft, we refurbish our aircraft, and then after that, we say we improve our competitiveness. So that was the next 2 stage, 2 years in the stage. So next is the growth stage. If you look at this triangle, we were very disciplined in executing this. We were on time in doing this, except one, is IPO. We were targeting IPO at that time, was in November 2011 at that time. Sorry, 2010. But due to market condition, we had to postpone it for 3 months to February 2011. So that was one thing that we missed in terms of doing the strategic plan. What we really did is we were very disciplined, not to be diverted into doing new things. Just focus on this plan. So this is what we did in terms of from 2006 and 2010. Next, please. So this is what we did, this Power 8. If you look at that time in Garuda, you see all the posters on this thing. Power 8, the 8 things we want to do. The 8 things we want to really, debt restructuring, we need to restructure the debt. We also need to balance, restructure our balance sheet. Garuda, we had so much assets, but those assets are non-aircraft. That's the problem. We had 11 hectares of land. You know, we had a very nice building in front of the palace, you know, at that time. So we sold it. I said, an airline, we don't need buildings. We need aircraft. So we moved to the airport. Although the employees did not like it, but I just did it, basically because it's for the sake of the company. And then organization, behavior restructuring. So we had to change, improve the human capital. Aircraft reliability and safety. And then also aircraft comfortability. And then the next one is service quality. And then the new concept of marketing. Because in the past we were a monopoly, we had to change the mindset of our marketing guys. Very simple, I said. What you do is, you talk to your agents, travel agents, and you buy them the lunch, not them treating us. You know? Because I said, they are, our agents is our partners. Instead of in the past, it's always the agents trying to get to see Garuda. So we tried really being market oriented. And then image recovery is very important, and this has to go in stage. And then we use one team, one spirit, one goal, and we also launch our corporate culture, which is fly high. The fly high, the F is efficient, effective, the L is loyalty, the Y is customer centricity, the H is honesty and openness, the I is integrity. We feel if we use the same corporate culture and then the same language, we can execute this much faster. Next. So this actually, I won't bother you on these things, but actually these are the things that we did: management organization, and then we did debt restructuring, revenue enhancement, cost effectiveness, product service improvement, and corporate social responsibility. In management organization, we want to do a lean organization and focus on the best business practice. We did a golden handshake. At that time, we gave a golden handshake to more than 1,000 employees. And if you see that, there was no demonstration or, you know, people, because I told them, you might be thinking, this Garuda might be your first job, but as the organization is growing, probably Garuda is not the best place for you to be. So we work with a consultant, and then we say it's not a golden handshake program, we said a second career program. So we really make sure that once we give them a golden handshake, they can do something else outside of Garuda. And next is the debt restructuring. So to improve the strong capital. Okay. So we had to raise capital to improve the balance sheet of the company. And next is the revenue enhancement. We had to maximize our revenue, improve our system, improve our, in terms of how we look at it, how we monitor it. So we did a revenue management system, you know, the subclasses, giving more authority to the branches, so we can really enhance the capability of getting more revenue. And then next is the cost. If you look at the cost effective, we need to attack the costs. When we first started, Garuda's turnover is almost $1 billion, about 900 something, say $1 billion. But since you're losing money, your cost is about $1 billion also, right? You take out depreciation, you take out salaries of your employees. So we always have a procurement every year, which is about 600 million. Every year we did a procurement. What I had in mind, I said, if I just can save about 3%, 4% of the yearly procurement, that means I can save about 24 million, okay? So we hired a consultant. At that time we did a tender, and it was Boston Consulting who won this tender. And then our instruction was, I said, we have COPRES 80, which is the government guidance for procurement, and we have an airline industry standard procurement. I asked them, I said, please do this procurement as transparent as possible with e-procurement. When the system is already running, nobody can intervene. Not the CEO, not the chairman, not the shareholder, nobody. Because everybody will know if there's some interference in this. We have what we call a dealing room in terms of they bid. So the so-called the suppliers, when we have only 3 suppliers left, they have to bid in terms of giving us the best price. So they don't know who is bidding the lowest, but with the process, we managed to get lower and lower. Guess, we were targeting with 3 to 4%, but we actually got 7% in terms of improvement. So that's how we attack the costs. And then next is product. Product in terms of improve the aircraft, improve the services. We refurbish our aircraft, so that's what we did in terms of improving. And finally, you get the money from your market, and you try to give it back to the market. So these are the things that we did. Next. Next slide. So we need to change. We believe change is in every level. We need to create leaders. We had the strategies and action. Our strategy in terms of how to communicate. So we put poster, town hall, and then try to make it as simple as possible in terms of what we want to do. So the employees can understand. If you try to make it too complicated, they will not understand. So you try to simplify that. And then consistency, walk the talk. If you say what you want to do, you better do it. And each level of the leaders, they have to be consistent in what they do. We also are consistent in terms of making sure that what we do is the best for the company. It took us 6 years, 9 months, and 2 days to finally sign a collective agreement with the union, because I did not want to move. They wanted all kind of things. I said, if I want to be populist, I said, I can give you everything, but I'm just going to plant a time bomb from whoever's going to replace me. So we did not move, and I think it's one of the longest negotiations with union, because once we signed this, the Minister of Labor witnessed it with all his Director General, because almost 7 years we had to sit down, negotiate to get the best labor union collective agreement. And then systemized approach. We always believe there's 3 things that we need to improve for the future. Is the people, the process, and the technology. So I always say that going forward, we need a systematic approach. Without this, we cannot reach where we want to be. But the most important, it has to be a top-down approach. In the company, I don't believe in democracy. There is no such thing as democracy in a company. It's top-down. You really need to push it. You really need to believe in it, and each leader needs to push this thing. Next. So actually, I'll just show you some pictures. We cycled together, and you see me cleaning up aircraft. That's what we do at least every 3 months until now, because we want to show our employees that aircraft is the most precious assets that we have. So we better make it clean, you better make it functional, and the only way is we just do it. And every time we do this, I always tell the board of directors, we clean up the lavatory. I tell you, it's not easy to clean the lavatory, You got all these chemicals and everything. But all the board, I said, we need to show them that we need to clean this up. So this is what we do every time, every 3 months, because without this, you're not showing really to your employees that you really mean what you say. Next. The government's role in this thing. If you ask about funding support, not anymore. Garuda is not getting any funding from the government. Special protection, no longer. Because being a state-owned company, it doesn't mean that we get special protection. Routes, we need to bid. Everything we need to bid. And then freedom to determine routes and the type of aircraft, yes, that we get from it. So government don't intervene in that. And then appointment of, we are very lucky we're listed now. So the management which they choose, they go through a fit and proper. So we get always the best professional management, not in the past just to appoint somebody. So this is government's role right now in Garuda. Next. Going to forward, what do we think? Garuda, we think that Indonesia will be growing. So we think, I think all of you know, this is the famous McKinsey so-called crystal ball approach about Indonesia. But the gist about this is saying that Indonesia will be a big nation. If the economy is growing, passenger will grow. So Garuda, we're putting ourselves ready in terms of to approach this in terms of Indonesia being the 7th biggest economy. Bear in mind, Indonesia is also an archipelago. The only way to get around Indonesia, the best way, is flying. So we're really positioning ourselves to support that. Next. And you see this is the domestic market and international market. You see it's still growing, and we predict that it will grow in the future on an average about 6 to 8%, domestic and international, and will continue to grow. And Garuda, we are in the full service premium. It's the red bar basically, and we realize there's the LCC also. Next. Also, this data shows that the potential of airline is big in Indonesia. Usually, passenger is a multiplication of the population. You look at Singapore, 39 million passengers, population is only 5 million. Hong Kong, also Australia, 22 million, 81 million passenger. UK also, Malaysia also, but Indonesia is the other way around. Our population is 250, but passenger has not even reached 100 million. So the potential going up, at least it can go up easily to 200 to 300 million passengers in the next 5 to 10 years. Next. We will continue to start reinventing ourselves, Garuda. First, as I mentioned to you, the people. We want people, simply said, I just need the right quality and the right quantity of people. So that's what we do. We need to groom them. We need to hire also from outside in terms of getting the right people. We want good quality and also companies who is engaged in terms of what they want to do. If they want to be as a cabin crew, they really have to have a passion in terms of services, giving good services to the passengers. So these are the things that we need to do. The process, also, we want the best practices. We try to simplify the process. We will shorten any process in the company, except if it involves safety and security. That we do not change. But the others, we try to simplify that. And next is the technology. So this is what we're doing, the state-of-art quality of technology and effectiveness. This is what we want to do. And we will continue to keep reinventing ourselves in terms of trying to get the right people, process, and technology. This is our target. We want to become a 5-star by next year. Hopefully we can get it by next year. Right now we are only 4-star. There's only 7 airlines in the world who has 5 stars. There's 24 airlines in the world who has 4 stars. The others are 3 stars. So number of aircraft, 194 by 2015. Average age, 5. And then productivity, this SK per employee, we always push about 8% minimum productivity per year. So we calculate the productivity of our employees. Passenger carried between Citylink and Garuda, 45 million. Garuda will carry 29 million. Citylink will carry about 16 million, so 45 million. Frequencies, almost 1,000 flights per day. As of today, we are about 600 flights per day. 6 years ago, we are only 140 flights a day. So we have grown 4 times. And then SkyTax rating, which is we want to achieve 5-star. Next. We will keep on innovating. You know, I think we are the only airline who have immigration on board in the world. No other airline has that. So we try to find things in terms of what makes us different than the other airlines. So if you fly from Japan, you fly from Australia, and then from Korea, you will get this immigration on board. So this is what we see. Next. For us, it's being Indonesia, which is very important. That is the unique differentiation. We feel Indonesia, the diversity, the hospitality, that is one thing in the service business. You need to be unique. No other airline can copy, say, they're carrying Indonesian hospitality, you know, in the neighbors, but except Garuda, we are carrying the Indonesian hospitality. So that's our uniqueness in terms of differentiating factor of our services. Next. We want to make Indonesian feel at home when they fly Garuda, and we want to make foreigners feel the warm ambience of Indonesia once they step into Garuda, even though they have not arrived in Indonesia. So that is the concept that we want to so-called deepening and improve day by day. Next. We approach it by 5 senses: the sight, the sound, the taste, you know, the hear, and the touch. So this is how we do that. You know, we put the sound of Indonesia, Indonesian music, and then the sight. If you look at the interior, we try to make it, you know, as much as Indonesia. If you don't realize, the upholstery is actually a batik, but it's embossed batik. And then the scent in the towels, when they get the wet towel. The touch, of course, the batik, the cabin crew use, and then the personal touch of the service, the cabin crew, and the taste, of course, Indonesian food, the best Indonesian food that we want to provide. Next. This is the approach that we do. We focus on the customer experience. We divide it into pre-journey, pre-flight, in-flight, post-flight, and post-journey. But we really look at one by one in each level. There is 28 touch points. When you're a passenger, actually there's 28 touch points when you connect to an airline without you even realizing. So that is how we try to focus and try to get more and more. So you will get more connected, more engaged, and more so-called relying on what we can do for you. Next. So Garuda, we've been growing in terms of operating revenue, number of aircraft, the flight per day, the productivity. But here almost the most important that we look at is the productivity. We really want to make sure that the productivity of these employees, although we grow, make sure that we don't really basically hire too many people. So we really try to improve. We want, in essence, what we would like to do is we want to work with less people, but pay them well. That's what we would like to do. Next. We've recognized internationally. We've got awards, Passenger Choice Award, ASEAN Premium Airline Award, Customer Satisfaction Award. So we are beginning to get the recognition from the passengers internationally in terms of what we have achieved and what we have done in the past few years. Next. We have also got 82 awards in 2013. 2010, we got the World Most Improved Airline. 2012, the World Best Regional Airline. And 2013, the World Best Economy Class Airline. This is very important in terms of economy class, because economy class is the most plain, vanilla services in the airline. Business, you create all this kind of seats and everything. Or first class even, you know, you invest so many. But economy is basically a product, that a standard product of an airline. So we were very so-called proud getting this best economy, because basically what we're giving to the customer is the right thing that the customer can appreciate. Next. And if you look at the world best economy, in 2013, we're not in the top 10. It was Asiana, Qatar, Singapore Airlines at that time. 2012, we moved to number 4. But still, on top of us is the Singapore, Qatar, and Asiana. And finally, 2013, we managed to be on top in terms of this. This is by a survey done by Skytrax, and they review it and all these things. So we managed to get the best economy class. And next, and right now, if you look at Garuda in terms of where we are, actually in the world best airline, in 2012, we were number 19. 2011, we're number 19. 2012, we're number 11. And now we are number 8. If you look on top of us, you see all these big airlines have more capital, so much money compared to us. Yes, but we think that as long as we're consistent, we try to get our customer. The asset of Garuda is basically the Indonesian hospitality, diversity, and also the population base. Most of Indonesians right now, they're really basically getting wealthier. They can spend more, but they've been always going other airlines. To us, we see if we can give a direct service, good service, and a good aircraft, I'm sure the Indonesians, they will return and fly with Garuda. And last March, we have joined the Sky Team. We are the 20th airline in the Global Alliance. By doing this, first, as a member of the Garuda Frequent Flyer, you can exchange miles in terms of flying the other members. So we will expand our network, about 164 destinations in the world, and then member of 19 other airlines, 20 with Garuda, in 178 countries. So why we joined this? Basically because we don't have enough capital to invest. If we want to expand our network, we have to invest in buying aircraft. But we have limited capital, and the best way is joining the Global Alliance. We have Air France, KLM, Korean Airlines, China Airlines, Delta. So if you want to go anywhere in the world, even aerolíneas, you can basically, we can really connect you in terms of, if, for example, you want to go to Mexico, you can go through Shanghai, and then one stop, and after that you go with Aeromexico directly to Mexico. Or you can go through Tokyo, we get connected also to Mexico City. If you want to go to basically somewhere in US, we can connect you through Amsterdam. And the end of May, 30th of May, we will be flying direct to Amsterdam with our 777. So Amsterdam will be the hub, so you can get anywhere in the East Coast of US. You want to go to the West Coast of US, you can get connected either through Taipei with China Airlines or Seoul with Korean Airlines. So that's how we would like to expand our network, so you get the best destination wherever you want to go. Next. So this is everything I just want to share with you, how I tell my employees every time when we have a meeting, a town hall. I said every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. But also the lion wakes up. It knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you're a lion or gazelle, when the sun comes up, you better start running. So I just remind our employees, yes, we've moved so tremendously in the last few years, but we still have a long way to go. And in Garuda, we always say, good is not good when better is expected. Thank you.
Terima kasih Bapak Emir Syahsatar, terima kasih Pak. Kami persilakan Bapak untuk dapat kembali ke tempat. Baik, dan hadirin boleh sekali lagi kita berikan aplaus yang lebih meriah Bapak Emir Syahsatar of Garuda Indonesia.
And also let's give another applause to other external speaker for their presentation, Bapak Ronald Swart from Astra Grafia and Bapak Jeffrey Sirait from Track.